All right, hi, Richard Moore here from 8stepStartup. Hope you're well. I'm wanting to speak about customer engagement today because a lot of the people who are getting in touch with me at the moment through the 8stepstartup.com site, who are also scheduling strategy sessions, a lot of you have ideas on what you want to do with your business, but when it comes to actual engagement with customers, that's often where a sticking point appears to reside. So obviously we have a huge strand of focus and content on this on the 8-Step Startup course. But those of you who know, 8-Step Startup is built on interviews and content based on the thoughts and advice and insight from the leaders of the most recognized companies in the world. Of course, from best-selling authors, but also from the professors and deans of world-class business schools who share this information as they teach the world's leaders as well in business. So I looked at where we can get great ideas when it comes to understanding customer engagement. And there's a fantastic chap I was in touch with last week called James Keady. He's here in the UK. He used to be looking after all of brand it was head of brand for GlaxoSmithKline, so GSK, in all of Europe, and he of course then looked at a lot of things that came with brands, so social media and things like that. For the big pharmaceutical business. He subsequently moved on to McLaren's, the supercar business, which must have been a really exciting role, and he was global head of digital there. So he looked after social media and digital content for McLaren and its presence and how it looked in front of its customers. But currently, James is here in the UK and he is the head of digital rather, for Samsung UK. And obviously Samsung as a global business is a $300 billion company. Those of you who know anything about smartphones and have followed it over the last 18 months or so will know that they are directly competing with Apple, and they've moved from the number 1 to number 2 slot in terms, and depending on whatever you read, they are leading the smartphone market, certainly in terms of units shipped, I believe. But of course, Samsung goes beyond that. So there's televisions, there's home appliances as well. There's a lot of high-tech stuff there. So James was asked by me to just share some insight for 8-Step Startup. And if you want to hear more from him, then really the course is where you need to be. However, I wanted just to share 3 tips he gave me, which look at customer engagement. And the first thing he said was you need to understand that when it comes to customer centricity, so really making customers the core of what you do, it needs to go as far as being the core of the company culture and also, in fact, the operations as well. And that really resonated with another leader I'd been in touch with, Robin Terrell, who originally was the managing director of Amazon UK. He's subsequently sitting on the board over at Tesco, the number 3 supermarket brand worldwide. And Robin also said, you've got to do everything in your power to think about what a customer might need, and that kind of goes above all things, really. And that was used in Amazon. It appears to be used in the work James does to drive forward the decisions on how company culture or operations come about and how they look. And he says it goes further than this because customer engagement as a thing is actually down to mapping everything in marketing all the way back to the customer experience and the value that you add to them. He says that's what he believes customer engagement really is. So looking at your marketing and saying, well, how does the customer interact with this? And at what points do we add real value to what they have to say? That truly is a customer engagement. So the customer marketing side of things is paramount to getting that absolutely right. And so that translates to you in startups, specifically in social media, to things like Facebook and YouTube. It's no use just to put together even a message or just something you feel is profound unless you think about how your particular audience or niche may interact with it. Where are you adding value, if at all? Have you even thought about that? Many people ask me all the time, some people I mentor work with Snapchat and some use YouTube. And it's always a case of saying, well, why don't people actually come back and ask me any questions? Well, if you don't add any value, if you're just talking, well, there's no reason for someone to. So you've got to think, well, how can I add real value? And often a call to action then afterwards will elicit a great response rather than people liking it through politeness, for instance. But finally, the main thing that James talked about that I really think is important, especially as a startup business, for those of you who overplan and under execute, he said there is no finished state, Richard. When it comes to customer engagement, it needs to be an ongoing program of change that reacts to the changing attitudes and flux that you will experience with customers. And I suppose what he's saying here is don't set out this gloriously pretty plan of how you'll engage with your customers for the next year in advance. Sure, be clear on the techniques and things you'll be using, but be agile, because the reality is that people change how they interact with people, and things trend differently, right? And you'll need to think that when it comes to actually engaging with people, they might just want to do things differently from time to time. So be able to react, be agile. Don't just stick to some plan, because it's a constant changing world of attitudes out there. So that's James Keady. It doesn't become better than that when it's GSK, then McLaren, and now head of digital for Samsung. The guy knows what he's talking about when it's customer engagement. More from 8-Step Startup soon. Get in touch. We've got free strategy sessions right now if you're interested in getting your business massive results right away. There are a few more slots still available. And I hope that helps, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care.